Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the quarterly forum for the first quarter of 2026. We have over 100, somewhere around 180 people registered for today's forum. Right, let's get started. Welcome to the quarterly forum for in March 2026. I'd like to welcome Anne Kemp to give a brief update on ISO 19650.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Thank you, everybody, for attending today. Really good to see such a good attendance. Hopefully, a lot of you came on the BSI webinar a couple of weeks ago. I'm just going to put into the chat the link to the webinar, so you can go register your name, etc., and get a recording of that. So I'm not proposing to repeat what was said there. So really, if you do go there, what you'll hear is Dan Roster introducing from a BSI perspective. I then talk about the process for preparing standards, and most importantly for getting comments from the public as we move into what is the draft information standard. What I emphasize is it is a draft, it's only a proposal. So this is a really important phase where we encourage people to read the standard and to make comments. And what's really helpful is if you both look at what you like and say that you like it, or if you don't, to say why you don't like it and what you would like to see instead. All those comments go through your national standard body. So within the UK, that is BSI. In Ireland, it's NSAI. And each of those national standards bodies have to scrupulously go through those comments and then put them forward where they are collated by the International Standards Organization, ready for the working group, who then also have to go through every single comment, discuss it, and then agree what the resolution for that will be. That is all noted and recorded, so it can be traced for what has happened to those comments. What I have said at the webinar is if you can indicate if you like something, please do, because the difficulty can be that if we only hear the negatives and there is a majority who keep silent but actually really liked it, we are always responding to negative comments which may actually undo what people actually like. So I don't want to overemphasize that. We definitely want to know what you don't like and we'll respond to that. But let's make sure that it's in balance. What you'll also hear with the webinar is then more detail from David Churcher for part 1, then from Paul Shilcock for part 2, and then going back to David Churcher for part 3. Parts 1 and 2 we expect to be released for the public consultation next week. So it's actually going to start happening quite quickly. There may be a delay when each of the national standards bodies then gets prepared and then releases that so that they will make sure that the comments come straight to them. But it should all be kicking into action next week. So please do take an active part on that. We really want to hear from you. I think that I'm going to leave it at that. Unless there's any questions at the moment, just bear in mind I have to be careful what I say because until the draft is actually released, we're not supposed to discuss with anybody what the detailed content is. But if there are any questions, I'm happy to take that. Otherwise, we can push on, Paul, because there's loads to cover, and I'm sure you're more interested actually in the Learning Outcomes Framework and the IM initiative.
There are no questions to date, so let's move on and welcome Paul Woddy to talk about. Oh, So how will the draft be released, communicated? Neil has just asked.
Yeah, so if you so you should be we will certainly, as NEMA, if you keep an eye open, we will publicize when it's released and how to get hold of that. On BSI, what you'd be able to do is you'll need to register, and then online you'll be able to look at the standards and be able to make comments. I'm fairly sure, if Dan was here, he would be able to confirm. I'm fairly sure that we can't actually download. I'm not sure about that. Does anyone else know? But I have a feeling it's that you access it online. Tell you what I'll do, Neil, is I'm just going to text Dan Roster just to check that, and I'll come back to you on that. But I think that it's that you have to do everything online, that you're not actually able to download. Okay.
Okay. Paul Woddy, over to you.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, it's my turn to just walk you through very briefly through the nima upskilling and education strategy. I took the this is a shortened version of that which we've been showing for a number of months now, and trying to sort of gather feedback and refine the strategy as we move forwards. This is as much about keeping you up to date on what we're doing, how we're doing it, how we propose to go forwards, as it is a call for volunteers to help and to steer where we're going and what we're doing. So there are three pillars to the nima upskilling strategy, and I'm going to sort of skip over the first one because Emma will be talking about the IMI foundations training and the IMI framework in more detail. So I won't dwell on this one too much, other than to say that the part that fits into my remit is obviously around education and around how we market, how we message the IMI and the foundations for people understanding what that means, the implications of it. So that's one of the work streams that's currently underway with the education stream. The second aspect is one of supporting academia and education providers within the IM sector. And what we're doing there is we're relaunching an initiative that is around sort of 10 years old already, something called the BIM Academic Forum, although what it's called going forwards is still up for debate. But what we're doing is we are intending to take this vehicle and to give it a new lease of life and a new remit. So the idea is to look at the academic, the educational supply chain from first instance of where people might learn about the built environment for the first time, might get interested in sort of schools, and then follow that journey through colleges, through apprenticeships, through universities, and into professional life and ongoing CPD. And we want to understand the weaknesses and the strengths of that supply chain. We want to know how we can support that supply chain, how we can use our influence and our resources to make that supply chain work better. And this will have a large impact on future strategy from NEMA, on how we what we produce and how we direct our efforts. So the first of these conferences is taking place on the 16th of April this year in Manchester in the UK, and the idea is to gather many representatives from different levels and different positions within that supply chain and to launch research topics and to encourage collaboration between different learning institutions. And there will be a lot of, as I say, a lot of work will come from that. There's a lot of initiatives will be spawned from that particular activity. The idea is that we take those conferences to 3, perhaps 4 times a year, and they will be moving internationally as well, and looking to set up different chapters around the world, and share ideas and best practice, and really sort of help support academia as much as we possibly can. The third work stream in the education front comes around what it is we're actually looking to teach. I say us. I'm now sort of talking in terms of that supply chain, and how we sort of move away from a one-size-fits-all training solution, which has kind of been prevalent in many instances in the past. The idea that if you are looking to be trained on BIM, on IM, that you are instantly pushed towards 19650 Part 2, regardless of your perspective. And so what we want to do is to turn the question of what you know about ISO 9650 Part 2 and the idea that we're measuring everybody against the same benchmark, turn that around and turn it into a question of what do you know in relation to what you should know in order to do your job. And this all leads to the concept of being able to develop career pathways for different perspectives, for different personas, to be able to understand where somebody is within this career pathway. And obviously we tailor this to the individual, but where you are within this pathway and what you know and where you want to be and what you should know in order to get there. Now, these questions are predicated on the fact that we know what somebody should know in order to get to where they want to be. So that in itself requires us to do a deep analysis of the responsibilities and expectations on these different personas. So that is where the revised learning outcomes framework comes to the fore. And what we're doing at the moment, we're currently in the midst of this, but we are gathering a series of experts in different fields from different perspectives, and we are asking them to analyze the process from beginning to end. And when I say from beginning to end, I'm talking about not about the capital works procurement stage of BIM and 19650, but actually taking this all the way back to an organizational understanding of what digital means in terms of that asset management, of how we prepare an organization, a client organization, for being able to have a conversation about the procurement of information. So taking it way before the kind of life cycle as we know it of an asset, way before that life cycle even kicks in. And we want to take it, so as well as taking it from, over a much longer sort of viewpoint, but also want to take it broader. We want to be able to understand it from different fields, from different roles within the industry. So the idea is to create a list of actions and deliverables, part of which is extracted from the various standards and protocols which exist in our field. Now, scope creep is obviously an issue in this respect because arguably there's thousands and thousands of standards that apply. But within the context of information management process, we want to analyze the deliverables and the responsibilities that exist within those standards. We want to take that in, supplement that with anecdotes and experience from these subject matter experts, and we want to be able to look at that list from different perspectives and start to assign responsibility to some of these parties. So the idea then would be to pick an individual persona and to look at that list of actions and responsibilities and understand what is applicable. Now, some of those responsibilities will be fixed to a particular job role. Some of them will be flexible depending upon contractual obligations. But ultimately, we want to look at which of those responsibilities apply to these different personas, and take in mind also that these different personas develop over time. So again, thinking of that career pathway, as you go from being a junior member of staff up to being the digital lead within an organization, for instance, then different responsibilities kick in. You might be contributing to certain elements at some point, but then responsible for them. You might have oversight of them. You might have knowledge of them. But we need to understand the intricacies of all of that in order to make that, to filter that list down to what is applicable. And then the important bit, we define the story. We turn that dry, standard language into something that tells a story about what you need to know in order to do your job. There will be, aspects of this which will be checklist, but that's not something that hasn't been done before or can't be done fairly easily. What we're looking at here is really to get into the bones of what does it mean to do that job, and to do so with that specialization and that maturity of understanding. So the concept is that we make this master list. We create these filters related to the persona that we're using. So in this case, there's many different kind of use cases for this data once we've got it created. But essentially, in this particular case, if we take the use case of an institution which wants to define what its members should know around IM. So this list represents that. It's our members need to know the following, and they need to know them to the following, to the levels shown, and the importance of that information is also there. So that gives us a knowledge shape, and we can then start to compare knowledge shapes in order to understand what's a good fit. So that could be, for instance, candidates that are looking to apply to that institution. It could be people, it could be a job application that we're looking that an employer is looking to fulfill. So they've defined what their ideal candidate will look like, and you can compare candidates against that. But more importantly, as I said, we're not using this as another means of comparing everybody against the same benchmark. The idea is that we would compare people against their peers. So actually, if we've got 3 different candidates doing 3 different roles, that's 3 different knowledge shapes that we're comparing them against. And actually, you might find somebody that looks weak in one respect actually knows everything they need to know in order to do the job they're currently doing. But as well as that, and coming back more frontline to the academic purposes of this, what we want to be able to do is to steer academic providers, educational providers, towards curriculum development that's in line with what the market expects and wants. So here we have the same principles applied to a gap analysis for a course. Let's say that's a graduate course. It could be a CPD course. It could be a master's course. No matter what it is, the course content is analysed in relation to what the industry wants of the candidates that come out of that course. So if the industry requirements are shown in the blue line, the black line represents where the course currently stands, then we've got work to do. Yes, there's a lot of good content in that course, but there is also a lot of gaps. There's a lot of red areas that are not yet being covered by that course. And possibly worse, there's some ugly areas. The orange areas represent parts of the course content that are irrelevant to the industry and therefore should be removed. So we're not only, so the idea is that we can get different peer groups in order to sort of review this master list and create the persona relevant IM task list, and from that we can then develop curricula and we can develop the stories that go along with that. How we use that information, as I say, is very varied. To me, the ultimate use case for this is shown here in the bottom right-hand corner, where we stop comparing everybody against this same benchmark, and we start to realize that different jobs, different roles within the industry require a different perspective when it comes to IM, to a different level of knowledge on different subjects, and therefore we need to compare them with against their peers and find out whether or not they need to know more information, whether they need to be upskilled. So I guess just if I finish off by saying that what we're looking for is volunteers to help with this subject matter expert review and the analysis of the various standards in order to help compile these lists and then to compile the stories that go along with them. So if anybody is interested in helping with this review and with this work in creating this learning outcomes framework, I'd be very interested in hearing from you. Happy to take a question or two now, or we wait till the end.
No questions in chat or Q&A at the moment. So maybe we can move on to Emma and invite Emma to fill in the gap, the item that Paul talked about in terms of foundations, and then move on to the rest of her presentation. Over to you, Emma.
Hey, thanks, Paul. Right. Can you see my slides?
Yes, we can.
Great. So I'm now going to give an overview of the Information Management Initiative. So the challenge we have in the industry, as we all know, it's quite chaotic with regards to information and data. And, you know, the construction sector or the built environment generates vast amounts of data, yet 95% of that goes unused, which obviously leads to inefficiencies, increased costs, safety risks, and missed opportunities for innovation. And as the industry faces growing demands for sustainability, digital transformation, and regulatory compliance, the need for better information management has never been more urgent. And, you know, there's some stats here. You know, only 23% of UK industrial organisations consider their data ready for analytics. And, you know, we only use 27% of the data for decision making. But quite astonishingly, poor data quality adds 2.5 billion a year across the UK on infrastructure projects. So that's huge. And then we have a massive issue in regards to the education side as well. So we're really missing a trick here, you know, and I've talked many times about information being a valuable asset in its own right, but for some reason we're just not recognising that nor exploiting it. So we've got a battle on our hands really to get that message out there. So in the past, back in 2016, we had the BIM Level 2 mandates. Then this was restated within the TIP roadmap to 2030. However, there was an issue with the mandate. So it wasn't formally mandated. It only applied to centrally procured public sector projects. It didn't cover all phases of built and managed environments. The value and benefits weren't clearly articulated. It didn't help individual organisations or users, and much of the industry is very much still in early phases of digital adoption. You know, the built environment is very vast in terms of maturity. On one end, you've got those at the start of their journey, and then at another, you've got those looking at, you know, things that are for the future. So it's quite broad in terms of that scope. So given this, how do we help guide the sector in the same sort of direction? So this is where we have the Information Management Initiative, which is a refresh of the mandate, but with a completely different approach. So it doesn't just throw a mandate out to the sector and says, get on with it. It's about working with organisations, joining things up and removing complexity. So the Information Management Initiative, or the IMI, is led by NIMA in partnership with the CLC. And it's a national programme designed to transform how the UK built environment sector manages information. And it builds upon the UK's leadership regards to BIM, and aims to embed structured, secure and interoperable data practices across the life cycle of built and natural assets. So the first thing to remember about the IMI is there's three main features. So the first is a call to action for all organisations. Then there is a sector-wide directive that an organisation uses to assess its own maturity. And then it's down to the individual organisations to create their own internal mandates based upon their own maturity and their ambition. So it's about working with organisations and giving them a connected set of foundations in which to work in. And this can be any organisation, so it doesn't matter if it's public, private, small, large. You know, it's about all organisations involved in the built environment. So from lawyers, regulators, insurers, land valuers to asset owners and engineers. We all create and use and share information in relation to the whole life of built and managed assets. An organisation sign up because they recognise that information is a business asset and it will benefit them. We need to unite to build a common set of information foundations. And the IMI respects that all organisations are different and on their own journeys with regards to information management, and they perhaps have their own perspective on information as well. So this isn't a blanket mandate or approach. We have to factor in those differences. So an organisation signs up to the IMI. What's next? So once they sign up, they're invited to take part in this 4-step process. So the first step is around onboarding, and this is about the training on the basics of information management. The second step is around planning and mobilisation. So this is understanding where your organisation sits in relation to the IMI sector-wide directive, and it's about setting a target to where you want to go and how to achieve that. And then step 3 and 4 is around that organisational mandate. So it's about preparing the mandate using overarching rules, and then it's about implementing the mandate using specific rules related to the IMI framework. So the IMI framework, which you may have already heard of and you might use on a daily basis, it used to be called the UK BIM framework, and this is where we have the relevant standards and all the free guidance that's been developed over the years with regards to ISO 19650. So we're going to build it upon those rules. But to deliver that IMI process, we have to we've broken it down into a series of projects. And the first bucket of projects we've called the organisational projects, and these represent each of the 4 steps that I've just mentioned. So we have project 1, which is in relation to step 1, and this is the IMI Foundations training, and this is being led by Paul, and this is what he talked about at the start of the last presentation. So this is very much understanding the why, what, when and who of information management, and part of that there is a small training package, and we're also developing an animation at the moment in regards to that. So that's just to get people on board. Step 2 is then related to project 2, which is the IMI maturity and benefits framework. So this is going to be a tool that we're developing which helps organisations understand where they are now in terms of the maturity and sets the target as to where they want to be and how to reach that. And then that sets the organisation up ready for them to look at the internal mandate. And for this, this relates to project 3, which is the IMI mandate methodology. And this is being led by Shahida Rajabudeen and Andy Bootle. And for that, we're going to provide methodologies that organisations can use in terms of getting their organisational level mandate ready so people can commit to it, and then actually then how that's implemented within an organization and how you can roll it out, train, monitor and have those improvement cycles. So that's all well and good, but organizations, we don't operate in silos in the built environment. We all have to work together. So one organisation has to work with another organisation on projects, all in different combinations. And for this, we need to be able to share information and data. And the challenge around this is not the lack of doing, but the lack of alignment. So much money is wasted across organisations, projects, initiatives every day because we're all trying to solve the same problems. And all this is doing is spreading the funding and resources out thinner and thinner and diluting the impact. And it's starting to get out of hand. So what we need to do is rein that in and solve it once and solve it well and make sure it all fits together in a bigger picture. And for this, we need the second bucket of projects. So these are the technical projects, and this is to develop a standard information approach which builds upon the existing IMI framework to establish information management foundations across the entire sector. So I don't know about you, but there is so much out there at the moment and it's overwhelming. You know, we've got things like ETIM, GS1, UNICLAS, IFC, information requirements, data dictionaries, and then we're putting AI on top of this. You know, it's how does all this fit together? So we almost need an implementation layer within this, sitting upon all that work of the standards and the guidance to bring it together with practical tools and to hide that complexity to form that standard information approach. And some of this work has already started with PAS 1958, which is due to come out either the end of this month or early next month, where we started to bring together 45 standards with regards to information management and data management across the built environment to see can they actually fit together. Is there an overall framework and a pattern that we need to work to? So we can start to build upon this, but it's all about hiding that complexity of the detail as well. So for this, we've created this basic framework, and it's based around people, context, process, data and technology, which are the 5 components in PAS 1958, but also are the 5 components used in the maturity and benefits tool as well. So at the top, we've got the people side, which is the organisational part of that, and that is supported by those 3 projects that I talked about earlier. And then we have the context. So information management is very context dependent, what is happening in the real world. And that then starts to inform the information purposes, which identifies the information specification, which are the information requirements. And that then starts to inform the information that's actually produced. Now, if the information specification is almost like the questions with regards to information, then information sources provide the actual data with regards to those questions. And for this, you've got sectors like manufacturing sector, which actually provide a lot of the data that we need in the built environment. And for that all to work, that needs to be underpinned by consistent syntax and semantics. Otherwise, we're all talking different languages. And then we have technology. So this is where then technology then plugs into this system. It's not technology led. It's independent of technology. Now, to build this framework, we've split it down into a series of technical projects. And so I'll just briefly go through each of these projects. So the first project is purpose methodology. So creating an actual methodology for working through in terms of defining purpose. Now, purpose is one of those things across the sector that we're really not very good at the moment. Why is information needed? Then the second one is around use cases. So creating standard sets of use cases. And also having standard sets of information requirements. So for this, we're going to be focusing on our first use case, which is insurance, which is one that isn't typically thought about with regards to the built environment, but it's very important. Then we have the third one, which is around the information requirements, which obviously feeds into number 2, but it's understanding how we start to create modularized information requirements and also spreadsheet representations of them as well. Then we have number 4, which is the taxonomy builder, and this one's the one that's closest to my heart. For me, one of the most, the biggest issue we have with regards to information management is around terms and definitions. We all call things different things and have different meanings, and we need to rethink the approach to this. So it isn't just a case of mapping one term to another. That doesn't work. So what do we need to do to address that? Then number 5 is model sync. So this is really looking at the object-oriented approach to information models, specifically during the operational phase, to make sure that the asset information model is kept in sync with the physical asset. Then number 6 is a schema alignment. So we have the schemas like IFC, but we also have Oscar, we have BRIC. So how do those schemas come together? Because not one schema does everything. Then we have 7, which is the technology code of practice. So that's creating a set of rules which technology providers can adhere to plug into this. And then we have 8, which is the manufacturer's information collaboration. So this is almost like a bridge between the built environment and then what is happening in terms of the manufacturing sector. And I'll just talk about that in a minute. And regards to these projects as well, because Building Smart UK and Ireland is also part of nima, the projects that we're working with in Bazooki actually also contribute to these projects as well. So it's, again, all working to the same outcomes and the same bigger picture. So this is how those projects align to that framework that I just talked about. And just to bring up 2 additional projects which sit out the scope of this. So we have the Manufacturers Information Hub, which is being led by Alex Small of Tata Steel, and this is basically getting all the manufacturers together and again collaborating on that side. So we're going to be working closely with the Manufacturers Information Hub. And then we have Project Indigo as well, which is almost like more of an R&D project and looking further into the future and really looking at how we can start to use semantic modelling and ontologies and knowledge graphs to start to really look at knowledge representation. So one of the things with regards to the IMI is it's understanding that a lot of this work is underway and some of it is existing work that we can make use of, but some of it will be new and we need funding for. But just imagine all the money that gets spent sorting this out. You know, it could be sorted once and for all across the entire sector for a fraction of the cost. So the time to take action is now. You know, we do have a lot of what is needed. There is growing appetite for this, and I think, you know, it might be one of our last opportunities, you know, to remain in control of our own destiny and to establish those rules. So by its very nature, information hates being constrained by silos. You know, it needs to connect. And other sectors have worked together to solve aspects of this. You know, we see it in finance, we see it in health. So we really need to follow suit and do the same. So it's about bringing together the right people, the right knowledge, skills, ideas and passion from the different initiatives. So I keep saying, joking, it's like the Avengers, you know, bringing people together with those right skills. But it's also looking at how we connect as a whole to other initiatives like the Manufacturers Information Hub, but also how we fit into a much wider vision as well. So any organisation can join and to register any interest, then please email us at info@wearenima.im. And there's already been strong interest from organisations wanting to join, and these are some of the organisations that have already signed up. So there we go. Thank you for listening to me, and if anyone's got any questions, happy to answer them.
Thank you, Emma. No questions so far. You were applauded for the clarity of your explanation by Stefan Mordiu. So thank you for that, Stefan. But I think just to keep momentum, we'll move on to Fiona, who will now talk about nima's plans for Digital Construction Week.
Thank you very much, Paul. Just taking this opportunity to let you know that we're going to be at Digital Construction Week again this year. It's our big opportunity to get together with you and see you face to face. We are very much a remote, online, virtual organisation, volunteer-led, not-for-profit, and DCW offers us a great opportunity to meet with you and follow up on events like this and have decent discussion. So just reminding you all, this is a slide that was provided to me by the organisers of DCW. There's some of the stats there. It is a massive opportunity to get out to our community. We also look at many opportunities to get out to people beyond our community. This year it's being held on the 3rd and 4th of June, and we will have a stand towards the rear of the exhibition hall near the information management exchange stage. So please do come along. Please do take the opportunity to meet members of the nima team and members of NIMA, and so on and so forth. There is the QR code for you to sign up for free for Digital Construction Week. So there ends the advert for Digital Construction Week. The eagle-eyed amongst you and those who have applied will know that the opportunity to apply to speak at Digital Construction Week closed last week. NIMA is lucky enough to work with Digital Construction Week on curating the IM stages. So we do work very closely with them. And as part of that, we get the opportunity, because of that, to put together a programme of presentations. So we want to take the opportunity today to just run through at very high level what we'll be speaking at Digital Construction Week, because not only you, but many of your colleagues, your clients, your supply chain members might also benefit from attendance, meeting us on the stand, but also what we're going to present. So we're pleased to announce that, Anne, you'll be there this year, and you're going to kick off proceedings with an overview of the practical information management, NIMA and the Information Management Initiative. So it won't surprise you that Anne will be scene setting and explaining what we've been up to in the past year, what we're planning to do going forward, and that will relate to the following 5 presentations. The second one we hope to do, none of it's fixed yet, but this is what we hope will be the sort of narrative arc. The title is NIMA, the Home of Information Management, Be Part of a Bigger Voice. And Stuart Bell will be talking on our behalf about the whole NIMA individual membership route that was launched at DCW last year, so it'll be a year old by then. And he'll be talking about the advantage of that, our intent around that, and what we're doing to differentiate and create maturity around different types of individual member. Then Paul Woddy, who's already spoken to you today, will be speaking again on the topic of how do we ensure that information management education is fit for purpose. So if you want to reflect on what Paul's told you today, if you've got feedback, come and listen to him again. Obviously, there'll be ample opportunity to bring the right people along to listen to us, but also to have that conversation with us. We hope that those 3 sessions will be on day 1. That's our hope, but it never quite works out like that. So fingers crossed. I know you, Paul, can't do day 2. So all being well, Paul will be there on day 1. On day 2, we've got Kevin Reeves speaking about the why, what and how of information management, bringing the Information Management Initiative to life. So that's where he will be talking about good information management practice and its importance. So the practicalities of the whole intent of the IM initiative. And we'll also be then leading on to our 5th session, which is around organisations. So we'll have spoken about you as individuals, how each of you are either practicing information managers with information management in your title, or you, like most people in their job, have to deploy information management as part of the day job. In addition to that, we will be talking about why this is important to organisations and why organisations need to step up. So we are now inviting people not only to register an interest in the IMI, but also register an interest as an organisation becoming an organisational member of NIMA. So there'll be much more on that, the advantage of that at organisational level and its importance. And then that's a panel discussion, by the way. So it will be, if you want to bring people from your organisation to hear about that, they will be hearing from their peers, and we'll have people from those organisations saying what it all means to them and why they're directly involved. Meanwhile, we'll be coming to a close, and Emma's got the opportunity to close out our contributions at DCW, and she will be speaking more on the topic she shared with you today, how we're intending to join the dots and what we're doing in terms of practice and projects. So again, if you're reflecting on what Emma said, you want to engage with us, come along, and you'll need to be around on day 2, and it'll probably be early afternoon, all being well, on day 2. So as I say, all being well, that's what we intend to do at DCW. I only want to take this opportunity to just give you a heads up. But we really do hope that those of you who are able to attend in person, come along, meet with us, share your thoughts and ideas. It is our big opportunity to meet people face to face, and I know for a lot of people it's really beneficial to have those in-person conversations. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Fiona. No questions directly on what you've just spoken about. We have had a general kind of question from Phil Thompson in the Q&A about following on from Emma's presentation, we can't operate in isolation. There will always be those that resist the approach, but would nima call out bad practice that undermines its goals? I don't know whether that's one for Emma or maybe one for Anne to come in on. Emma, do you want to have a first stab at it?
You're on mute too.
You're on
I've
mute.
just taken yourself off mute.
That's why it was quiet.
I think, Phil, it's a question of whether it's bad practice or whether it's because people are early on their journey. So our first stance would be to help rather than be calling out bad practice. What we would be doing is, if anyone is trying to claim to be representing nima or the IM initiative and are sort of being quite heavyweight and saying, oh, we know everything and you're not doing it right, we would be calling that out as being bad behaviour. So I think very much there's the behavioural side of this. As to bad practice, I think we would have to look at this case by case, Phil. So what I would prefer to answer, this is my own approach, and what I think, unless anyone wants to disagree with me, is that we would be encouraging good practice and good behaviours and helping each other. So I hope that answers your question, Phil. Do challenge me on that. It is something that we've been asked before on this, but yeah, that would be my drive, is that what we're doing is we're encouraging good practice. Emma, I don't know whether you would like to add to that, or Fiona or Paul.
I mean, it depends on the context and the situation, and I always try and see the positives and good in everything what people are doing, because there's always some benefit in most things. But you know, if there is something that really isn't right, then I suppose it's about educating people, isn't it? First, rather than calling them out. You know, we don't want to be putting, you know, we see lots of this on LinkedIn, and it's not helpful at all, and it puts people off. So you know, it really is about collaboration and working together in the first instance. Yeah,
Tom, I see your thing about the whistle blowing charlatans. I think, as I say, it would be if there is unprofessional behaviours going on or unprofessional advice and consultation, then yes, but possibly we would do it in a more diplomatic way, as of showing what the good practice and behaviours is. So demonstrating by good behaviour, whether that's something you would disagree with or not. But Fiona, you've got your hand up.
It was just to channel my inner Phil Thompson. Sorry, Phil, because I can't speak. Phil last year mapped out the sort of ecosystem of people, less people and more organisations at this space. So it would be our affiliated organisations, and whether certain organisations are affiliated to us and whether we're just chatting to them. So I second what you've both said, Anne and Emma. And in response to Phil, I think what we need to do is reach out to more organisations and talk to them to try and align rather than correct and wag a finger at them, but to make sure we're listening, understanding and communicating. But having looked at your map, Phil, it's a mammoth job. So, but it is something we spend a lot of time horizon scanning on. and we need to apply ourselves to how to resource that piece of work.
Phil, you've put in the email for calling out poor behaviours. And what we have got is a slide which is what our ethics are and what we see as being good behaviours. I think what we have done in the past is not to name and shame, but to contact people, whether that be direct message through LinkedIn or email, to say, look, we have noticed that you're doing this. Can we have a chat? So yeah, for the moment, I would hope that that is the better and more desired approach that we take as NIMA. I think that's probably enough said for the moment.
I think it's worth looking at Phil's map and having an offline conversation again with Phil, Anne, because Phil's just highlighted his frustration that the map is growing, and he'd kind of like us to be at the hub of the map. I know that. So I think it's a separate conversation about not individuals, but institutions and others that we need to align with.
I think because Phil, what specifically was saying was there will always be those that resist this approach. Does NIMA plan to call out bad practice? So I think it was less about the connecting, because Emma and I have, for instance, we've been talking with Mark Enzer about how we connect better, who that should be. So very much underlining what Emma was saying on the connection side. So Phil, absolutely, we've been looking at the stakeholders as well and how we prioritise things. So that side of things I feel more comfortable about, having said which it obviously is a massive task. I think that, as I say, the bad practice side of things, I would prefer that we take the approach that I've described.
Paul Woddy?
I think also I just wanted to add that as NIMA looks to the future and becoming a professional body, we will be looking at professional standards and the conduct of our membership, at which point we start to move more towards, I think, the tone that Phil is and Tom are describing. But as it stands right now, we're in a position of education and outreach, and not chastisement so much. But certainly I think as we go forwards and membership of NIMA becomes something that is gained through experience and through delivering professionally, then I think we'll be in a position to do that.
Well, there's a question on Q&A, isn't there? Also on the technology providers. But Fiona, did you want to continue?
Ever so briefly, there's something from Paul Toner about AI. We haven't got time to talk about AI this afternoon. We might have to do that at a different session, but I would point you in the direction of the GIGS AI paper that we published last week, which is helpful in that regard, and I'll put the link in the chat in a minute.
Yeah. So Miguel, you've asked a question on collaboration and proactive from major software vendors such as Autodesk, Trimble, Procore. We do have a technology group. We have a code of practice, which Paul Wilkinson has led, and we are looking to reference more and more with the IM initiative. I would say that we've had some quite positive conversations with Autodesk, with Trimble, with Bentley. So it's a continuing conversation to be had. I was at a couple of meetings last week with that DCIT was hosting, where Autodesk and Esri were present and saying they want to be more active going forward. So I think, whilst I can't say that it's done and dusted, there's certainly work to be done. I think there are some encouraging signs that they are really seeing how important it is that we make those connections.
Indeed, yes. I was at a meeting earlier on today with the members of the Construction Industry Council and Construction Leadership Council, talking through some of the digital aspects of interoperability. And the point was raised by one of the contributors at that meeting about how procurement could be a strong driver in this process. When organisations are contractually obliged to share interoperable information, it puts the onus on the technology providers to support that exchange and use of information accordingly. So that's something that was written into the interoperability code of practice for technology providers that we produced nearly 3 years ago. And it's been it's envisaged, as Emma pointed out in her presentation, that the code of practice would be updated and become part of the framework moving forward. I think we are pretty much at the end of the call now. So
yeah, David, if I could, Paul, just to
Yep.
say, David has replied to our colleague from South Africa. It is difficult when your national standards body isn't actually giving you the opportunity to comment. So as David suggests, I am going to be making a few queries myself. But if you are able to get in touch with your national standards body to challenge them and raise it with staff with the built environment remit, that may be your best bet.
Great. I think that draws the meeting to, oh, I've got one new message just cropping up. Oh yes, there was a link to our artificial intelligence paper that we put live last week. And a query about the IMI framework, including O&M standards. Could we see other documents like ISO 42001, which is AI? Emma, is that something you're covering in PAS 1958?
If I could just come up with that, Emma. So yeah, so it has come up. We've just had a management meeting for the IMI framework. We will be looking to clean the framework website and to be looking at the standards that should be provided informed by 1958. So but that's being taken to the technical team at the moment. So that's work in progress at the moment, I think, is probably the best way. What we don't want is to overcomplicate the IMI framework and make it seem unachievable to actually be able to take steps forward. So that is something that we'll be looking at. It's probably a good topic actually for us to bring to another forum. I would suggest when we've had that conversation, we can go through that with you, if that would be helpful.
And Bryn Mannering has asked a question about systems that provide the controls for information management process being considered in the IMI and the education and training strategy.
Is that for you, Paul Woddy?
I guess by systems, I assume you're talking about the kind of UCAS accreditation of certification. Are you? Is that what you mean by that?
See. I think in the time available, I think maybe we take this offline and
yeah, happy to have that conversation.
When I circulate the link afterwards, we can do a follow-up on that particular question. And with anything else, any other, and we'll share other links that we've shared during the session as well.
Yeah, sorry, Bryn, we're not quite sure what you're meaning, so let's follow up. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you to everybody for attending. Thank you to Anne, Paul, Fiona and Emma for presenting. As I mentioned, we will be sharing a recording shortly. The next quarterly forum will be soon after Digital Construction Week, so towards the middle of June, and we look forward to talking to you all then. Thank you for coming this afternoon, and goodbye from the team in the UK.
Cheerio, take care all.
All right.
Thank you, bye.